You're going to feel nervous. You might feel your body tensing in the days before the competition. You might even not sleep super well. Competing in jiu-jitsu could be one of the biggest investments you make in your training. In my view, it can also improve other aspects of your character and your life. In this video, I'll be telling you everything I've learned from both my own experiences and those of others on preparation, mindset, and competition logistics. Okay, let's get into it. I'm currently sporting a black eye, which it seems that no amount of makeup will cover. Know that the experience of doing a competition is going to be more intense than sparring in class. Things are going to feel faster, and your opponent is just going to grip your gi really tightly. Compete at white belt. Seriously. Compete at white belt. Unless you're already a blue or a purple belt or a brown belt or a black belt. There are no black belts watching these videos. The reason people leave it is because they think it's going to get easier at blue belt. But actually, it's going to get a lot harder. Blue belt is kind of wild country in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu competitions. You could fight a black belt in judo, you could fight someone who was a former professional wrestler, and the stakes will feel even higher. If you mess up at your first ever competition and you're a white belt, trust me, in the months and years to come, it will just become a funny story. Compete when you're ready. Not when other people tell you you're ready, not when you think you should compete. Say you come from a competitive athletic background, or you just really want to do it. Go for it. The point I'm trying to make is you have to go when you decide that you're ready. You're never going to feel 100% ready. To get around that, what I found helpful was setting myself a deadline. I said, by the end of this year, I want to do my first ever Brazilian Jiu Jitsu competition. If there's a competition that you're thinking of booking, maybe you even want to pause the video and go book it right now. Or at least think about when you might be able to do your first ever competition. And I don't know, maybe start to get excited about it, because competing is really fun. You want to give yourself time to prepare. Book the competition at least 2 months in advance. There's 2 reasons for that. First of all, if you book the competition in 10 days' time, you're going to feel anxious, probably. Second of all, booking the competition is going to make you focus on your training a lot more. Who knows what you could achieve in that period of time? You need to be emulating the competition environment in training. This could involve doing competition-specific training, imitating the intensity of competition matches, having a game plan that revolves around securing positions and gaining points, identifying weaknesses, adjusting to a faster pace. Okay, look, if this is your first competition, and especially if you're a white belt, chill out. You don't need to do all of that stuff necessarily. It's probably going to be enough for you to practice all of your rounds from standing rather than being on your knees. Know how to do a takedown or pull guard. And that's something your coaches and more experienced training partners will be able to help you with. You can also do competition-specific training either at your current club or go cross-train at another club if that's something you want to do.
In my experience, when you're prepping to do a jiu-jitsu competition, every bit of training you do counts. Here's me in my first competition at Blue Belt. 2 weeks before this, I was lucky enough to train whilst on holiday at Fight Zone Costa Blanca with Nadine Tavares de Silva, a competitive black belt, and she covered a counter to the omoplata submission, where the person defending themselves rolls out of the position. Although I am actually attempting to perform the Kimura on my opponent, you can see that she rolls out of it. I was then able to apply the learning we covered regarding countering the omoplata escape so that I could re-secure top position.
Don't cut weight. Do not cut weight for your first ever Brazilian Jiu Jitsu competition. Part of the reason we're doing this competition is because we want to see whether or not we like competing and how the way we're training fares in competition. If you start adding other components such as cutting weight, it's just going to confuse the whole experience. Make your first competition about Jiu Jitsu, not about cutting weight, unless decreasing body fat and increasing muscle mass are part of longer term goals for you. Basically, don't lose any weight unless you're planning on losing weight anyway. Unless, say, you're a wrestler or you've done other sports where you've had to cut weight and it's something you really know how to do, I would not throw that into the mix. That's my personal view. If you have another perspective, I'd love to hear from it in the comments below. Or, just go ahead and do it and then tell me about it. Tell your coach that you're going to compete and ask them if there's anything that you need to work on. That will just help you out because we don't know what we don't know, but a black belt does. Make sure your cardio is good. Say you have 5 fights over the course of an hour. Can you manage 5 hard rounds of sparring in an hour? Everyone needs an opposition. For example, if the government has no opposition, then the government can kind of just act with impunity and do whatever they want. Similarly, if we're training and we don't have something which is out of the gym we train at, out of our comfort zone to kind of shake us up, then we never know what our weaknesses are. That's kind of how I think of competing as being useful. I haven't included anything in this video about tapering because I think it would be more appropriate for you to speak to a coach about that, as well as other technical things to do with competing. What one of my coaches told me is that you basically just have to keep trying different things and see what works for you. But obviously don't do an insanely heavy lifting session the day before the competition, unless you're David Goggins, or you want to be David Goggins, in which case, do what you like. Make a list of everything you need for the competition. Pack your bag the night before, or even a couple of days before, because what's going to happen is you're going to realize that you don't have any Lucozade, or you don't have electrolytes, or you don't have a gum shield, or your favorite rash guard is dirty and you need to wash it. So make sure you have everything at least the night before, if not a couple of days before. What do you need to bring with you to a competition? Your gi. Don't forget your gi. I once forgot my gi for a competition and it was seriously stressful. All the usual things that you would take to training. Take some Lucozade, take water. Often they're in a venue that has one small shop and the shop runs out of water. Mouth guard. You might train without a mouth guard. Don't compete without a mouth guard. Remember my black eye? Imagine if that had happened on my mouth, I would have lost a tooth or something, or at least it just would have really hurt. Wear a mouth guard. You get sick, you get dehydrated, you're running late, you don't have time to warm up. When we go to competition, there are things we can control and things we can't control. You can control how much you prepare. You can control your mindset. You can control having your kit and your bag ready. You can't control, for example, the temperature of the room that you're in. I know that sounds really random, but I've done a few competitions in London that have been so hot. Think of a competition in a basement in summer with no air conditioning. Even the spectators were sweating. And that's something which I just couldn't control. But I could control whether or not I had water and electrolytes in my bag. Also remember that when something happens which is outside of your control, such as the room being really hot, it's also happening to your opponent. You also can't really control anything about your opponent. They're gonna do their thing and you're gonna do yours and respond. For example, they might have a really awesome close guard. This is what happened to me on Saturday. And they might pull you into it and you might just be stuck there for a little while and have to move through the situation in the best possible way that you can. Go watch a competition first so you know what to expect. I did this before doing my first ever competition. I went and watched my teammates compete at a London Grappling Industries event and I found it really helpful. It was just nice to see what the competition environment was like and what would be expected of me. Look up the rules beforehand. Whether you're doing Grappling Industries, ADCC, NAGA, IBJJF, you need to know what the rules are because every competition is slightly different. You're going to feel nervous, and that's fine. You might feel your body tensing in the days before the competition. You might even not sleep super well. Maybe before you step on those mats, your mouth is going to feel dry and you're going to feel like you need to use the toilet even though you just went to go use the toilet. That's all completely normal. All that is happening is that your body is getting you ready to fight. You're gathering up all of your energy and focusing it, kind of like Pikachu before he does a thunderbolt attack. Ha! Before I did my first ever competition, someone told me that it would be the hardest thing I had ever done in my life. And I just remember thinking, you must have had a really easy life because don't get me wrong, competing is hard, but life is harder. And that kind of helped give me some perspective for when I went into my first competition because I just remember thinking, well, I'm choosing to be here. This is a simulated, difficult situation. It's not as if this has been forced upon me. So thank you, person who told me that. I'd love to have you come with me on my jiu-jitsu training journey. If you want to follow along, go ahead and hit subscribe.